everyone, it's Tracey. Welcome back to my channel. Has anyone been thinking about Christmas lately? I have been. I've been working on my Frosty Gingers collection, and I thought I would show you how I do the pine needle swag ornament today. Now that we have our frosting down, I'm going through and I'm going to go ahead and add some shading from the milk chocolate right underneath the frosted areas. I'm just using the chisel edge of the flat brush, and I'm going ahead and just kind of going along the outline, the jagged edges of all of the frosting, and I'm going to pull it through. Just kind of gives more emphasis on it and kind of makes it stand out, gives it a little bit more depth. You'll be surprised because you really don't need too much paint. So what you'll do is you'll pick up some paint on that chisel edge and just pull it through, and then when you see it starting to run out a little bit, then go ahead and grab some more. Another thing for me to mention to you is you'll notice that I pull up from where I'm holding the brush. So I'm going to go ahead and work the jagged edges, but you'll see me sometimes if I don't want too much pressure, one way to handle that is to pull up on the brush. And what I mean by that is how you're holding the brush. If you hold it closer to the ferrule, then you're going to have more pressure. Once I'm sure it's dry, I'm going to go ahead back in and I'm going to use Deco Art's Extreme Sheen Sterling Silver with the number 10 flat. You can see here that I went ahead and did some of the bar here from the sleigh. It gives it that shimmery look, and that'll be some of the candy cane that I want to add to the design. I just add a little bit, kind of work it into the brush, and then I'm going to go ahead right over the frosted areas, and it's going to give it that shimmery look. Try it out. I think you'll find it's a lot of fun. I'm really glad that Sheila Landry had shared this about it on her group. If you don't belong to her group, it's a wonderful group. Let's Paint and Create with Sheila Landry. A lot of fun. I should mention that her group is on Facebook. So if you have a profile and you're on Facebook, go ahead and join her group. It's a lot of fun, and you meet a lot of new friends and can share your work. It's really a great place. Don't feel that you have to cover every little section of the white. You can leave some with just the paint on it that you started with. Once it's dry, you're ready to start the pine swag. I'm going ahead and just drawing with a watercolor pencil where I kind of want my leaves and the pine needles to go. I'm just going to go ahead in and use my flat brush, and I'm going to go ahead and start using just the edge, the vertical edge of the brush itself, and I'm going to go ahead in and add in vertically. As you can see, I'm letting the paintbrush stand up on its end, and I'm just kind of having the paintbrush help me as I go ahead in and pounce in some of the pine needles. I like doing it this way instead of using a liner brush. I know some like to use the liner brush. I do that sometimes, all depending on what I'm working with, but where this is kind of like folk, country type of look, I really wanted it to be a little bit more vintage looking, kind of like it's more worn. Working on this part of the brush really gives me that look that I want. I'm trying to make sure too that I space out where I'm putting these pine needles. Don't just bunch them all up in one particular area or all along those lines. You're going to see why after, but it's really so that you can go ahead and have some room to go ahead in and add those holly leaves. You can work this pretty quickly, as you can see. I should mention too, you can see that I started sort of doing some of the candy cane up top on the little bar there. Make this design exactly how you would like it. You can take any functional item or any type of surface and go ahead and add little things from the design. It's a lot of fun. time to add the holly leaves. So this is using the flats again, and what I'm going to use is either a 4 or a 6 flat, and I'm loading my brush with just the corner of it, and I'm just using that chisel edge of that brush again, and just kind of impressionistically, I guess you would say, painting in those holly leaves. If you think that you want to see a video for me doing these holly leaves all by themselves, I can go ahead and do that. Let me know. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are and what your suggestions would be. These are really neat because as you do them more impressionistically and just working and loading just that chisel edge on the side of one of the corners of the brush, it really allows for you to add in color onto the other side, and we'll be showing you that in a minute. So what you're doing here is you're going in and you see the little holes that we made, the little spaces in between all the pine needles. That's where you're going to add those holly leaves. And you're going to do them very lightly. You don't have to put them dark. I would go ahead and do very lightly. Once it's all dry now, I want to make sure that it's dry. We can go ahead in and add some snowy highlights. For some reason I just love doing this. You can use for the snowy highlights 2 different sizes. I like the number 4. You can use the number 6 flat, but I kind of like the number 4 for this because it's just a little bit more subtle, doesn't make it longer than the actual leaf, and I'm able to work with a little bit easier. So I just go ahead and fill my paint. My paint's getting a little dry here, but that's okay because I want it to be more of a dry brush look anyway. So I'm going to work it into the brush, and the same way you used the technique that I showed you to go ahead in and add the pine needles, we're going to go ahead in and add the highlights, and you can see that I'm just going right over it, literally right over it, and it just brings that design out. Go over your holly leaves too. You're probably going to end up loving this as much as I do because it really, really makes that design pop. I think that's why I use white so much. And we're going to use white at the end too with a mop, and I'll show you how I do that. Probably the easiest part, we get to add the berries. So I use this Lowell Cornell double-sided or double-edged stylus that I really like. Gives 2 different sizes, one on one side, one on the other. So I'm going to go ahead in and just add in randomly where I think that I would like some of the berries to go. And I kind of flip my stylus around because I want to make different sizes. You don't want them all uniform. And the reason why I don't want them all uniform is just makes it look a little bit more natural. And I can go ahead in and add highlights to those, maybe a little bit more whiter highlights to the larger ones. Here using the 10-0 liner, I'm just going to go ahead in and dry brush in and dab in some white highlights onto those tiny, tiny berries. My favorite part, here I'm using my oval royal mop and I'm adding some final highlights. So what I'm doing is I'm using a little bit of blending gel on my mop, and I'm going to go ahead in and just pounce in some color of white actually into that design. And it really, really makes it so Christmassy looking, so light and airy. I do this with a lot of my work. If you see that you end up using too much, you can go ahead in and pick up with a Q-tip and take some off. you can start to see how it really makes the whole design just really stand out. You almost don't even want to put words on this ornament by the time you're done. Hope you enjoyed watching me, and I'll see you soon.